Class is in session.
Hey, and welcome to Unlearn 16. Class is in session. Now, if you're watching me on YouTube, you understand what I'm wearing right now? Let me describe it for the people just listening. I am in a full Eagles go-to Super Bowl gear. I'm filming this on Sunday. I know it's not going to be released till Tuesday, so you guys won't be able to hear me on Tuesday, but I'm committing. I'm committing 100% to my Philadelphia Eagles. I'm wearing, yes, hockey shoulder pads underneath my jersey because I'm not a football player and I'm Canadian, so I have I have hockey shoulder pads, but I am wearing a Reggie White, authentic, back in the day jersey representing my Philadelphia Eagles. Anna says she's in a costume ready to go. She's just in red, yellow, and white. She keeps calling it a costume. I feel like we're going to get smited by the football gods, but nonetheless. So why am I on here dressed like this? Delusions of football grandeur? Maybe a little bit. I feel a little tougher. I feel a little stronger, maybe ready take it to the line, so to speak. But what I really want to talk about today, while I'm in this gear, while I'm getting ready to go watch this football game, I want to talk about sports. And I want to talk about how essential athletics are for everybody, not just kids, not just teens, not just young adults, but for everybody, and what athletics and specifically team sports, which is what I was involved in, brings to the table on your development, on your sense of self, on your sense of team and teamwork and reliance on other people. And I'm going to start, right from the get-go, right from the baby, the first step as you kick that ball or throw something your mom told you not to, right in that moment. Now I know a lot of people on here are going to say, Joanna, I hate sports. I'm not a team sport person. I'm an individual sport person, or I hate sports altogether. I only run when I'm being chased. I appreciate that logic. But nonetheless, here's what I think. I think sports, first of all, have essential qualities for everybody, regardless if you're good at them. I think what our culture has done is sometimes, and in a lot of ways, if you're not good at something, you're supposed to put the ball down and go the heck home and find something better that you're good at, because you're not supposed to keep doing something you stink at. That's my problem with us guys. That's my problem with our culture. That's my problem with what we teach young people. I don't think we should walk away from something because we're not good at it. I think a lot of people and a lot of adults who don't like sports, specifically team sports, they don't like them because they weren't necessarily, Michael Jordan out on the court. They don't like them because of how they felt when they stunk at it, and then what kind of feedback they got in that moment and how they got that back. I think that says a lot. Now, also understand that I'm highly competitive. I love competition. I love going all in. I love really high caliber sport. I played to the highest caliber I possibly could, given my 5'6" and kind of weak upper body strength limitations. Okay, would I have loved? I was always a good player, a decent player. I felt myself to be a good leader, but my skill I wasn't naturally born with the gift of all, and I sure as heck didn't have the body type in order to really excel. And to be honest, when I was young, and this is going for a lot of young girls, there wasn't necessarily the infrastructure and the foundation and the facility to push me into that world. Even now, I don't feel as though it exists. It doesn't. It doesn't exist the way it exists for boys. I don't care where you're sitting. I understand we have the WNBA. I understand Canadian women's hockey team kicks butt every single place they go. But this isn't necessarily a goal for women. Why? Well, because we don't get paid. There's no $1 million NFL standing in the wings, or the hockey league or the baseball league. All of these leagues, we don't have necessarily leagues that are female dominated, that are women's leagues. And I'm going to go you one step further. I even think in some capacities, women can play to this sort of level, regardless of it being men or women. I'm not saying on the football I understand the football field's a little bit of a different scenario. Having said that, I've met a lot of women that most men wouldn't want to stand across that line from. But the reality is, we still don't have that push. We still don't have the best coaches. We don't have the best trainers. We don't have the best culture to be pushing. And then that's true across the board. So, whoever you are, if you're not necessarily instantaneously good, if they don't think you're going to be this huge superstar player, you don't get that push. And when you don't get that push, you usually get that push out the door and then you lose. And then you lose on what a team has to offer. And for women, even though it's changing, and I know everybody's going to say, Joanna, because it's way different than it was when I was a kid, right? There was like one hockey ice time, and that's in Canada, for the love of God, for young girls when I was a kid. It was like 5 a.m. That was it, one time, period. And so all of that is changing, and that's fantastic. But the shift that needs to happen, in my opinion, is the need and is the spiritual requirement of people belonging to a team. And I don't care what team it is. I don't care in what fashion. But there is something unique about going full out with a group of people that have your back no matter what. That when you get in trouble, they're on your left. That when you get hurt, they pick you up. That when you don't have a good game, they build you back up. When you have a great game, they carry you off the field on their shoulders. Guys, doesn't everybody want to be a part of that? Doesn't that sound like a beautiful way? If we're gonna indoctrinate, if we're gonna make kids experience things with value, isn't there an incredible value in that? Isn't there this amazing space where kids get to understand what that dynamic feels like? Right? And so when people constantly, oh, we're so much of a participation ribbon, blah, 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 blah. Listen, there's a difference. But I'm very competitive. There's a difference between being so incredibly competitive that you chirp and bully the kid right off the team that can't cut it, and then the other extreme where you're handing out participation ribbons, doesn't matter what you do. Does everybody understand there's a middle ground there? And I think the middle ground, I would love to reach on many levels, but I'm going to use sport to reach it here. And I often say this in my classroom. I don't care what the end result was. What I care about is the effort, the dedication, the blood, sweat, and tears you put out in order to get that. So that applies to academics, that applies to jobs, that applies to the amazing kids shoveling my driveway, and that applies to in a real way. And it's tangible on the field or on the court. Did you leave it all on the field? Do you come off the field or the court sweating buckets, right? Your elbow hurts because you dove for that ball. Your knee hurts because you got in the way of that kick. Is it all out there? Because if you've left it all on the court or all on the field or all on the pitch, in my opinion, that's the lesson. And I'm telling you right now, that's not about a damn participation ribbon. So when groups of people like to, make individuals feel like crap who don't necessarily have the skill, but go all in, they're morons. Because it's the going all in that we need to encourage. Listen, there's certain skills you need to learn for certain sports. And then there's some sports you can just muscle through, right? Football is probably one of them. You can leave it all out there and you can muscle through and you can give all your effort, knowing full well that your skill set might not be, in the top 10% yet. But when I watch a kid give all that they got in that capacity, that is a mentality. That is an amazing sort of character building moment. And isn't this what we're supposed to be doing with kids? I get it. We all want to win. Absolutely. Nobody wants to lose. But the character, and everybody says this, and every top performing athlete says this, right? You have Michael Jordan, who was bounced off his high school basketball team. Keep that in mind. It's not the bottom line skill. It is how hard are you willing to work? How much are you willing to put in? Not everybody's going to the NBA, but that doesn't matter. That's not the lesson. The lesson is, what are you willing to do in order to make whatever event the best? And then there's the team aspect, right? Because if you have one kid doing that, it's impressive. Or adult for that matter. I think adults need to learn this, pretty much as quickly as children do, probably more so. But if you give your all and you're one kid, and then all of a sudden your teammate sees what you're doing. So guess what? They up their ante, and another teammate sees it. And a kid on the bench who still hasn't even made it on the field says, I'm going to bust my ass in practice like that. I'm going to work that much harder. Not because necessarily do I think I'm as good as yet, but I'll be damned if I let where I sit today dictate where I'm going to sit for my entire future. And when my team needs me to do anything, I will be ready to take it to them. I will be ready to step on the field. I will be ready to do whatever I need to do to make us better. Isn't that the lesson? Isn't that if we all thought like that and felt like that and made sure that the kids, when they're young, feel like that, when they're on whatever team inspires them, isn't that the character trait that's going to change the world? Because I'll tell you, I played sports my whole life. I started in baseball, then I shifted to volleyball, and then eventually I got to rugby. Now I'm 5'6", I weigh $120 soaking wet. Did I hit the gym and pump? No, come on now. Did I try to be real fast? People didn't kill me? Yes, I did. Was I decent on a team that actually I played with 5 or 6 national team players that played for Canada? When I was playing with them, did I ever think, oh, my skill's not high enough, I should just hang up the cleats and call it a day? No. And let's be honest, some of that is delusions of grandeur in my head. But the other part of it is, and I know I've talked about this on this podcast before, the other part of it is I learned at a very young age. I'm not necessarily naturally inclined and the best at everything that I do. But what I have is a work ethic and a dedication to the people that are standing next to me to be the best possible whatever I can be in order to make that team better. So when I got to rugby, and I'll tell you a little story. And I got to rugby, I was playing for the Toronto Scottish. And I hadn't played in a while. I graduated university and I realized I missed that team dynamic. I missed that blood, sweat, and tears, the camaraderie, just the fact I'm on your left. That's all I need to say, right? For an athlete, you understand what that means. And so I go to play with the Toronto Scottish. Now, the Toronto Scottish is a team that was packed with people like Maureen McMahon, Tamara Curtis, Arabachinto. I mean, these women, Dallas, these women played for Canada and they're amazing. I didn't know any of these women when I started with the Toronto Scottish. One of my friends says, Joe, come on out, play rugby with us. Amazing. I come out, I show up that day, and what are we doing? We are doing rugby field suicides. Why? Because it was conditioning time for the Toronto Scottish. Heaven help me. Was I in shape? No, I wasn't. I wasn't even close to being in shape. But I was out there and my goal was, okay, I'm not in shape. We're doing conditioning. Joe, all you're going to do is you're going to keep up with the girl next to you. The woman, I'm sorry. So I looked at her, introduced myself. She introduced, I have no idea who she is. I said, amazing. I'm going to keep up to you. We start doing suicides. For those who don't understand what a suicide is, you go about a quarter of the field, touch the line, come back to the baseline. Go half to the field, come back, 3/4, come back, go all the way down, come back. It's like a gym suicide on a rugby pitch. Okay? We did 7,000 of them. I don't remember. And I kept up to the girl to my right. And every time she pulled up ahead, I pulled up a little more. Now, could I have been breaking my soul at this particular? Yes. Was I? It was I thought I was going to die. Absolutely die. But what amazes me is what that inner person, that inner, just keep up with that person. Just a little bit harder, just a little bit more. And I think that's also what makes us great. I know a lot of people are like, you have to have the inner strength to make you great. I get it. But it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to be standing beside people you respect and measuring yourself by somebody who's just a little better than you. I always wanted to play sports. People who were better than me. Want to know why? Because it brought out the best in me. I got better. I watched, I learned, I got better. I tried to keep up. So at the end of this, when I thought I was going to die and I almost threw up, I, shook hands with everybody who was there. They welcomed me to the team. My friend Shelly pulled me over. She goes, dude, how did you do that? I said, do what? I said, I'm going to die. She goes, you kept up with Maureen McMahon the entire time. Maureen McMahon, by the way, was the captain of the Canadian rugby team, sevens, at the time. She's like, she is fitness. She should be on a magazine. She is the most fit person on the team. She played 8. She insane. And I'm like, oh my God. And my friend's like, dude, you just made some great impressions. And I'm like, this is when I die, by the way. But what I saw and what is cool about rugby, and I do like it about football, even though I've never played football. I'm Canadian and it's just not a big thing up here. When you're on a rugby pitch, and I don't mean to demean war, but it feels like you go to battle, right? It feels like you go to battle. It is a sport where you hit and get hit. You have no equipment except for a mouth guard, for crying out loud. And every chance you're going to go down, you're going to get hit, you have one of your teammates, if you have good teammates, and they're on your left. And they're on the left to take the ball, or they're on left to ruck over top of you. They're on left to push the ball further, to make sure you're protected, to make sure you get covered. And when people ask my favorite sport, I say it's rugby. Did I get hurt sometimes? Sure. There was a woman that hit me that if I close my eyes, she played for the national team too. I can still feel my how painful it was. But you know what's interesting about great players? They didn't injure you. They just hurt you. Like you just felt like you hit a cement wall, but somehow didn't break a bone. Nothing got torn. Nothing got pulled. You just, that's what hitting one of the gods must feel like. And you go, okay, I don't want to do that again. Next time I'm not going to try to sidestep her. I'll handle it differently. And then you get better. And then you get better. And then you recognize that these women on this pitch will do whatever it takes to back you, whatever it takes to support you. So guess what you do? You do it more and you go harder. And you see when they're in trouble and have their, you're on their left, you have their back. If anybody doesn't understand on your left, for the love of God, please watch an Avengers movie. Winter Soldier, Captain America, something. And all of this being said, it's amazing on the pitch. And it's amazing in sport, and it's amazing when you win titles and you win championships. But what it's taught me, I think, it's all transferable, truly transferable. Because if you're on my team in life, and I feel like most people are on my team, you understand what I mean by that? I got your left. I'm on your left. And I will back you and support you. But what I will do and what I demand from everybody around me is that everything we do, you do it to your 100%. You do it until you can't go anymore. You do it till your body is done, your mind is done. You got no more steps, you got no more throws, you got no more tackles to give. And if you do that, if we all do that, and we do that together, there's absolutely nothing we can't accomplish. Isn't that a character trait? Isn't that what we want to teach our kids? So when these morons are going around talking about, oh, it's just a participation ribbon, or unless unless you win, you're just garbage. They don't understand the point. Truly don't understand the point. They've obviously never seen Rudy, for the love of God, which is, by the way, one of my favorite movies of all time. They don't understand the point of what is truly heroic. isn't the player that is naturally the best putting on the best performance. I'm impressed. You're amazing. It's the player that knows they're not the best. It's the player that understands that in the grand scheme of things, they're never getting paid millions of dollars to do this. They're not necessarily making that starting line, but when they step foot on the playing field, they give 100% of who they are and what they got until they're no longer on that field anymore. Those are the heroes. Those are the Rudies. Michael Jordan could have walked away from the sport of basketball, called it a day, right? High school, he gets bounced off. He could have been done. He wasn't. You have all sorts of examples of athletes who, and you have quote after cliched quote, where very rocky. It doesn't matter how hard you punch. It matters how hard you get punched and still keep coming back and still keep standing up. Well, that's what matters. And so when I talk about athletics, that's, and heaven help me, I have to teach gym, but that's what I want to teach. That's what I want to teach. That is inspirational. And it doesn't matter if you're playing football or you're building a company or you're teaching, whatever it is you're doing, your goal is to leave it all on the field and is to be that team. That's inspirational and that's amazing and that's going to change everything. So no, I'm not giving a pat on the head for just standing on the pitch. That's not what the pat deserves, right? You don't get a participation ribbon for not giving it 100%. But you sure as hell should get accolades, get carried off the field when they know you've stepped out there and done everything you seriously could have done, especially when your skill set doesn't come naturally or isn't so incredibly evolved. I talk about this with my students all the time. And we talk about how education, in my opinion, should be bettered. And one of the ways I think it should be bettered is this. We should stop forcing kids or allowing kids to drop courses they aren't naturally great at by saying, oh, well, you're not good at this, so just focus on what you're good at. To me, that's not teaching the most important thing about life, because you will come a time where you're up against it, even in the thing you're great at. And if you've never learned to struggle and overcome, if you've never learned to start at the bottom, if you've never learned to watch somebody else get it with such ease and you have to struggle, you're not getting what life is truly about. And you will never be as great as you could have been. So the kids that hate math, they drop it as soon as they can. Done. Why? Well, because we've made everything about marks. Get the grades. If you don't get the grades, drop the class. Because if you're getting a 52, you stink at it. Don't work at it anymore. Be embarrassed by it. No, screw that. How hard did you work for the 52? Did you bust your ass for the 52? Did you try? Did you get extra help? Did you go home and do it again and again and again? Then for the love of God, I am more proud of that 52 than a kid who got 92 and it just comes easy. Let's elevate that in school. Let's find a way to elevate the idea that a kid can do something, an individual can do something that they're not great at, become better. Maybe never great. Maybe never great, but they become better. They can't play an instrument. Oh, well, don't ever pick up an instrument. No, forget that. Music is one of those things that is universal. And now we've translated into, do you do it well? And if you do it well, cool, keep doing it. If you don't, put it down, walk away. Why? Find something about it that inspires you, because if you can find that, then you can get better. My problem is we've really messed up with inspiration and whether a kid likes something, and we assume they don't like it because they don't want to do it. That's not the truth. Most people don't want to do things they're not good at because they're not getting supported and they're not getting encouraged and they're not getting pushed to get better at it. They have no cheer section. We all need a cheer section. If you're going to say you're an island, stop it right now. No, you're not. Everybody needs that support system, especially when we're kids. And to cut it off because you're not getting an A is cutting off a part of your person. who you are. Music is a part of everybody. Science is a part of everybody. Art, history, English, physics, we all, every single person on this planet can have an avenue that they want to go down, that inspires them, that intrigues them, that they want to understand in every single discipline. How dare we minimize what kids can go after and how they go after it based on the number beside their name if they're giving it their all? And again, you're in my classroom. I am never giving you a pat on the back when I know you didn't. Nope. I give you the pat on the back for the character, for your strength, for how hard did you work. And if you're leaving it all on the pitch, then I'm on your left. I'm giving you parades and accolades to the best of my ability. Could you imagine if we did that in this world? Could you imagine how much better we would be? How much more well-rounded we would be? I teach my kids about the Renaissance and the whole idea of the Renaissance person. Yeah, I changed that from Renaissance man. And I miss that. How the hell did we go away from that? When did somebody say you shouldn't have a breadth of knowledge? You shouldn't be a well-rounded individual? We've channeled people into things they are great at, and that's the only thing you can ever do. What a waste of human potential. Because even the thing you're great at, even that thing, it is likely to be inspired and push you to a higher level of understanding if you have a greater breadth of everything else that goes on in this world. Music and math are connected. Art and science and history are connected. The more we try to disconnect these things and turn us all into tiny little narrow tunnel visioned individuals that only are on this planet to do one thing, the less human we become. And we see that all derived from sport. From the time where you feel like, did you leave it all on the pitch? And I left it all on the pitch, but I didn't make that final goal, but my whole team backed me. My whole team saw what I did and how hard I did it, and that's all I got. And I haven't even begun to talk about mental toughness that comes with athletics. You know, the moments in athletics where it's going like at 100% and everybody's full tilt, those aren't the times of being tested. You want to know the time of being tested? Every athlete knows it's the quiet time. It's the moment before the serve. It's the moment before the snap. It's the moment as you're about to receive a serve. You know, it's the quiet time right before you make that pitch. All of that quiet time when you have to have 100% control over your thought in order to make the play, the pitch, the whatever great. Nobody talks about that, right? That's power. We talk about it all the time. We talk about meditating and we talk about, manifesting and all of those things. What do you think athletes are doing? When you do it right, when you have control over your thoughts in order to make sure your head doesn't mess up your play, when you're not running on autopilot, and that moment where your thoughts can make or break the next thing that happens, oh my God, why aren't we talking about this more? And I know some people are deep in the hallways of sports psychology and on the most elite level teams. Why aren't we talking about to grade sevens? Why aren't we talking about it to our youth who need that? Who need to understand why that's so important, how sports ties into their brains and their mental health, not just for getting physical activity, which is an obvious benefit, but it's all of that mental control and all of that mental activity that you have to go through, that you have to mitigate and balance. That's where the power is. That's where the interest is, and that's where the transferable skills are to everything else you are going to do in this world. We talk about standing up in front of a room. Number one fear of everybody's public speaking. Why? It's not because you don't know your stuff. It's because your thoughts have decided that it is too terrifying, that you're not going to get the job done and you can't control your thoughts. The minute we can teach kids how to control their thoughts, guess how much they can stand up in front of the room every day, all day, it doesn't matter. Why? Because they control what needs to be controlled. They put in 100% of their work, and then that standing in front of people, that's about controlling your headspace. And that's what athletics teaches you. Now, do I think there's huge, benefits of individual athletics? Of course I do. Of course I do. They just never were my thing. So I can't speak to them the way that I speak about what it feels like to be on a team. For me, and I think people are different, but for me, my motivation sure was winning, but it was being on their left. It was making sure that I did what I needed to do to be a part of that team, to elevate that team, to make that team more powerful. And I think in the world, the way society works, in my opinion, we're all on a team. Hopefully, we're all on very big teams, multiple teams, lots of teams, every single place we go. The notion that we're just sitting in our house doing it all on our own and never actually having to understand what that dynamic feels like, it doesn't seem very real to me. I understand we have to learn how to be independent. We have to learn how to get things done on our own. Sure. Sure. But there's aspects about all of that in team sports as well. So my goal is simple. I think that this idea of a sport and this idea about winning and losing and participation ribbons and all of the stuff that's going on in the media, it needs to be turned on its head. It needs to be turned on its head. And the only thing we need to talk to kids about, teens, adults, did you leave it all on the field? Is it everything you could have done, you could have possibly prepped for, you could have possibly pushed yourself to the limits? Is everything on that pitch? And if the answer is yes, then I always got your left. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And hopefully, while I'm wearing my Eagles jersey on Tuesday morning when this airs, it is a victorious jersey. But if it isn't, I know they would have left it all on the pitch. Have a great week, guys. I will see you next Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat station. Dismissed.